Welcome to the finalToon tutorial Hatching. In this tutorial lesson you will learn how to use and adjust the hatching feature of finalToon. In finalToon we offer a special map, and this hatching map offers unique features that allow you to create real hand-drawn looks of your rendering. I want to show you the basics of the hatching, and also I want to discuss several unique features you have in the hatching, and you will learn that you can use any kind of hatching patterns, and you can even create your own hatching patterns. This scene here, the hatching.max scene, is part of your shipping CD. And if you wish, you may load the scene later and just try on your own some modifications on the settings and parameters. Hatching is done in the material editor, so it's not a line style effect or a line effect at all. It is just a material map. So you could even use the hatching map of finalToon with any standard 3D Studio Max rendering. So you can add hatching, for example, to any object in your scene without using the classic finalToon features. You can just add it to your max rendering and perhaps try to create some nice and interesting effects. But for now, let's check the hatching feature of finalToon. We use here, as you can see, standard material. And the standard material uses a finalToon shader. We use this to get it very easy and straightforward without tricking, self-illumination and so on. And we only activate the body color here in finalToon. I would like to show you now some two renderings, one with the shadow turned on and one with the body only. Right now, let me turn on let the body only turned on, and let's do a rendering. So we get this nice hatching pattern that looks like a pen drawn or a pencil drawn image, and we will look deeper into the settings. Right now it looks too regular, it looks too computer generated, but I want that you take care or attention about this region here, the shadow regions, and also this shadow regions here. So when I turn on shadow in my finalToon material, it means that the shadow color is replaced with a fixed color in this case, and that's 50% of this color here. So if you turn on shadow, you will replace the shadow areas with a fixed color. We wanted to have the shadow produced by a denser hatching pattern, like you would do it when you do hand drawings or manually draw things on paper. So by turning off the shadow, we will get back our shadow regions by a denser and more repeats of the line strokes here. So this is what we want to achieve. So that's all we need from the shading part. The body color is not fixed, it's a color controlled by a map. You can see that as with standard materials with the M. And we now just go into the maps rollout menu, and we see we have a finalToon hatching map. So the finalToon hatching map is chosen like a bitmap or a procedural texture or whatever. So let's just take an overview of the settings and parameters we have here. The first interesting thing is we have the stroke mask. So the line strokes are nothing else than just an easy plain bitmap. So this could be anything. So please remember, those strokes are not created by the system. It's just a bitmap, a black and white bitmap in this case, a GIF image. And to show you the image, let's just bring up this and zoom a little bit into the image. And as you can see, this is really easy. It's a few kilobytes, so it doesn't take any memory. And this is a very effective and creative way because your line patterns could look like anything. We will change soon the line patterns. First, I want to show you some basic settings we have here, how to control the hatching. Some things are a little bit confusing, so I recommend reading the manual to understand the interaction between the various parameters. But for now, let's take a look in the first important parameter, that's the map size. The map size is the actual bitmap that is created for this object. So like you would use a standard bitmap to create a wood or a marble texture. This is the size, and it's a square bitmap, so it's 128 pixels by 128 pixel. There's an interaction between the map size and the stroke size, because the actual stroke image, what we have seen here, is fed into the map size. So an image is created 128 by 128 pixels, and the stroke is put into this image, and it is repeated several times. And one more connection is all this is connected to the shading steps. So right now we have 6 layers of the stroke or hatching bitmap. So this means we have 6 times 128 by 128 pixels. So keep in mind that those two parameters are multiplied. So if you have here a huge number and also here a huge number, you will get an incredible big number that can drive you really easy insane. So keep this in mind. This is important to know. If you put here 2048 pixels, this map is multiplied by 6, so you have 6 times 2048 pixels. And this in square, because this is for both X and Y resolution. Okay, so again, let me show you the connection. When I reduce the map size, what would you expect? Will the strokes get bigger or smaller? When I reduce the map size, let's say to 64, the strokes become bigger. As you will see here, we now have huge big strokes here. This is because the stroke here, the stroke image is the only constant. So this is done in a certain resolution. So if the resolution is smaller than your map size, it will be repeated here into the map. This is not the case, so we only fit, let's say, one stroke image here, so this will be enlarged and it will be placed here. So there's a way to reduce the size again. If you go to stroke size and let's say reduce it to 20%, and then if we render again, we will get very fine detail in small strokes. But as you can see, this doesn't look really nice, and we get strange effects here. So this is not the way to go. You need a certain resolution for sure, and by increasing this, let's say, to 256, we have a reasonable bitmap size, and now the stroke does really look like it was drawn with a pencil or a pen. The only thing now is we want perhaps to control the color of the stroke. There are several options. The stroke color can be defined by the mask itself. That would be the image. So if this is a colorful or a colored stroke, it would use the color of the image. This could be good for very interesting effects. Or you can set a specific color. So if we choose, let's say, a fixed blue, all the strokes will get this color. And this could also be interesting along with the body color or the diffuse color of the object. You can create interesting effects. Or if you don't want to have that, you can just go and choose a bitmap. In this case, let me just choose the gradient ramp, and let me choose a radial gradient ramp. And if we render now, the color of the strokes is defined by the gradient ramp. So also here you have very powerful features and functions. It's up to your creativity what you want to do, and there are unlimited possibilities here and options. But let me turn this back to the black color so it looks like we have a hand-drawn effect here. The thing that makes it still look like a computer graphic is it's too regular. So everything is in sync in one line, the strokes repeat and so on, so that doesn't look really nice. So we are now going to change the look. And also we have, besides the regularity or the computer look, we can control how the strokes are blended into each other. Remember, as I said before, we have multiple layers. Right now we have 6 shading steps that will give us a smooth transition here. Now we can control how those are blended together. Right now I've turned it from fade to threshold. That means every value in the stroke bitmap higher than 0.5 will be treated as visible. Below 0.5 will be treated as transparent, and you can see we now get a really high contrast image, so we don't have smooth blending between the layers. It's just an on and off switch. So this can also be very nice to have a real paper drawn or hand drawn look with hard contrasts. But right now I like the fade out effect much better, so let me just turn this back. So now the strokes are blended together. You can see this here, so we don't have this on-off threshold switch. So right now the next thing is to add some more hand-drawn look or irregularities. First thing is the cross strokes, so we can have a crisscross pattern. And I'll just add the button here, cross strokes. And when we render now, let me just copy the image so that we see the difference. When we render now, we can see that we have here in the shadow areas a crisscross effect, and we can enhance this cross strokes effect a little bit more. I'll show you later. The next thing is, if we want to have the cross strokes all crossing each other, we also need to take care about the rotation. So to complete the effect, we would say, okay, we allow a 50% rotation. So right now there is no single regular stroke anymore. So this is a little bit too extreme. So I'd better go to, let's say, 80%. And now we get the crisscross pattern, so where we fill the shadows with a denser region. And also talking about density, we have stroke controls here that are very important. Those stroke controls allow you to change the look of your image. So for example, the light rise spinner allows you to control the brighter areas or the lit areas. So everywhere where we have direct illumination, we can control this with light rise. And I'll just do it. I'll increase it a little bit, and you will see that now all the bright areas change. So areas that are illuminated will become less dark, or the strokes become less visible. And the opposite is true. If we turn this down to, let's say, 0.2, we will get a much darker region here, and only the highlights will survive the illumination. So right now, if you look here to the highlights, and also here this region, so only those will survive from the light rise pattern. So also I would just go to 1 to turn it back, so I like this most right now. And the same is true for the non-illuminated areas. That means shadow areas or back-facing areas. So here that would be a back-facing area. Also here would be a back-facing area. So if I increase this parameter to, let's say, 10, you will see a little bit darker here. So as you can see, you have here much darker definition, more contrast between the lit area and the dark area. And as you can see, if we watch closely, we have the cross strokes effect here. So if I turn off the cross strokes effect, we don't get the cross strokes, as you can see here in the zoom. Okay, just for comparison, I'll turn it on again, and you see cross strokes. So this is the shadow decay. I'll turn it back to 2, so we get a nice smooth blending here. Another thing is you control the overall density here. The overall density is how much strokes are placed in all these 6 layers. So if I have a density, let's say 10%, 10% of my area of the bitmap is filled with strokes, and this means I will see less strokes also in my rendering. So a density of 10 is not really, in this case, a really clever idea or function, but still, if I increase now again the shadow decay, as you can see here, we will see more strokes here. As you can see, now we get a better definition here. And also if I go back, you will see that we lose here in this area and also in this area here, we lose the strokes again. So the overall density just defines the overall density. Nothing special about this. Higher values will create higher densities, and you can increase this until everything is black. So there is no real reasonable or useful parameter here. You just adjust it as long as you think your image looks cool or great. So I'll put it back to 120 here, and we'll just render again. And as you can see, the rendering is really fast, so you can adjust really nicely your settings of the hatching pattern. The minimum level is also an important parameter. The minimum level defines how much you will see in the bright areas. So take a careful look here in this area. A min level of 0 means that here actually there will be no stroke visible. Yeah, I think I need to increase a little bit the light rise and to give it a more area here to see that we don't get strokes here and here. So the minimum level is no strokes. If we increase this, we will start to see even here strokes in the illuminated areas. But still, because of our shadows, strokes, here we see bright and dark areas. But the minimum level means that we see at minimum 20% of the strokes, of the actual strokes here. If we increase this even more, you will see that this gets darker. And now we are no more able to see the shadow and bright areas. So the minimum is a really powerful control to give at least in all places in the scene some lines. And also let me turn this back. So the opposite is the maximum level. So that defines the strokes in the darker areas. So if we would reduce this, we will reduce the strokes in the darker areas. And if we increase this, let's say to 100%, we will get the maximum amount of strokes here. So those stroke density controls are really great. It allows you to adjust the contrast, the look, and the light shadow look of your object. So the most important thing to get a more irregular look, a more hand-drawn look, is the homogeneity. Here we can just control every aspect, how the strokes are placed on the surface. I already showed the rotation value. 100% means that the strokes are restricted to their original orientation, so you will get no rotation at all, so all are even and aligned. So that's 100%. If we allow, let's say, 90% to rotate, we will see chaotic strokes all over the place. And along with density, for example, let's say if we increase the density, you can create really interesting effects and structures and textures. Okay, so this is one powerful control to give it a more hand-drawn look. So because usually when you draw such lines manually, you're not able to, unless you use a tool, you're not able to have every stroke the same. Also the U and V axis may be changed, so you can have different amounts of strokes in either direction, in either U or V axis. So let's do this a little bit extreme. I go down to 2%. You will see that we have in one axis we have less strokes, as you can see here in this axis, and if we turn it the other way around, we will get in the other way less strokes. So we can adjust the look of the rendering very easy. I found a very reasonable setting to put this at 50% and give it a 90 or perhaps 80% rotation allowance, and then you get really nice effects. So we were talking about the stroke patterns before. Right now we use this easy stroke here. It's just a black and white image, GIF image. We can choose many other images, and we can also choose really weird strokes. For example, let's choose a text. Let's take a look at the text. So we have just some blah 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 text. That text makes no sense, but we can use it to wrap our object in newspaper. Let's just render the image here. And as you can see, all the rules for the stroke patterns, or for the strokes itself, also apply to the text. So the text is now treated as a stroke pattern, and it is repeated in these areas, and it is also rotated. So if we increase the rotation here a lot, we will see that we get more random rotation here on our cube, and if we don't rotate it, we get it all aligned straight so that we can even read the text here on our cube. Also, as you can see in the shadow areas, we get a higher density, more rotation there, and also we can adjust all the same things we had from before. So we can reduce, for example, now the size of our stroke to, let's say, 60%. So we get now more newspapers here, more fine detail. And perhaps we also want to have a higher density here, let's say 200. So as you can see, you can really do creative things with a hatching map alone. And it doesn't have to be a black and white image. Remember, you can have the stroke color from the mask. So if you use colored stroke images, you can have even, let me just check, this is not really colored, but it uses alpha map, so you can have even fading strokes, so strokes that fade to the background color, as you can see here. And we have also the option to use multiplied alpha and multiplied alpha. And let me just change the body color a little bit. So let's say 80% we want from the body color, and we'll change the body color to something like this. And this is standard 3 Studio Max, so there's nothing I need to explain here in detail. So I'll go down to 20%, and you can do all kinds of weird effects. So as you can see now, we're able to use all kind of strokes and stroke patterns, whatever you want. Something like this here. So I think you get the picture now. The hatching map alone in finalToon is worth the whole product. I'm sure you will find many unique ideas, many creative ideas where you can use it for other stuff, even for 3 Studio renderings alone, or it is perfect along with cartoon renderings. Please check out also the other tutorials about transparent objects or reflection objects, and also again check the manual. The manual explains all the interactions, connections between those settings and parameters.